Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Inside LSU Baseball. I'm your host, Jason Armstrong, and the Tigers coming off of a 3-game sweep of North Alabama. We're going to talk about it, and we're getting ready for conference play to kick off this coming weekend with the Missouri Tigers coming to town. First, we have a midweek game against Xavier, and we're off and running. This is the fun time of year. I can't wait for it. I'm so excited. But first, let's talk about this weekend. Let's talk about some of the performances that we saw, especially pitching, which I love to talk about. And we'll, just kind of want to point out some things that have just really stood out to me as we prepare for the main part of the season. It was a good week for LSU, though. Even going back into the midweek games, LSU's won, I think, 11 straight games now. They're playing good ball. Offense is in really good shape. The defense has been really good. And the pitching at times, has been really solid. So let's start there with the pitching. And I'm going to point out guys that really stood out to me, as well as maybe some guys who are still trying to get things going. And I'm not just going by the stats. I mean, I'm going by, just different things as I'm watching these guys, because I'm looking at this pitching staff, this rotation, and I'm looking at it through the lens of, what about when we play Texas? What about when we play Mississippi State? When we go to Oklahoma? Is this going to work against those guys? Because some things that work against North Alabama and, Purdue Fort Wayne is not going to work in SEC play. So, but overall on the weekend, LSU gave up 10 free passes, which is down because there was a 4-game span where LSU had given up 10 free passes in 3 of the 4 games. This was like a week ago when LSU, everybody rolled out there was walking guys. So overall, I think this weekend you only had 9 guys throw. You had 2 games where only the starter and 1 reliever came in. And then I think game 3, when Chase Shore started, you had 5 total guys throw. You had 4 good performances, what I would classify good, and 5 that I would say weren't great. But let's get into it. So let's go back to game 1. And the story of game 1 to me was Cade Anderson. And Cade Anderson was stellar. The LSU won 13-2. Really wasn't a close game. LSU gets 5 in the third. 5 more in the 6th, and just really put it on them like they should. Cade Anderson was great. I mean, he threw 6 innings, 1 run, 0 walks, 0, and 11 strikeouts. And what I really liked about Cade Anderson's performance, because you could look at the stats and say, hey, he had a great game. But what I liked is that there's been games this year where Cade Anderson has been slider heavy. You didn't see many curveballs. Last year, he was all curveballs, no slider. This game, his whole arsenal was really on display. Not only was he good spotting the fastball, but he threw both breaking balls, the slower curveball and the slider. And he even mixed in some changeups. And that's what you're going to have to do when you start facing these SEC teams, getting through the lineup 2 and 3 times. You can't just depend on, even 2 pitches. And I thought that he was really good. He was up to 72% of his pitches were strikes. So that is important. I mean, he was just all over the strike zone. And I just can't really remember any time where he was in any kind of trouble. Just really pounded the zone. And you like to see that. Had a lot of swing and miss. And so, I think that as he is getting ready for his first start against Missouri, which, let's be honest, Missouri's not a great team, but they still are an SEC team. So you cannot take them lightly. As a matter of fact, back in 2023, Missouri swept, I believe it was Tennessee, beat them 3 games. 2024, They swept Florida, beat them 3 games. And I even believe, somebody could check me on this, in 2022, they swept Mississippi State. So this is a team, I'm not telling you I think they're going to sweep LSU. The contrary, I think LSU, this is a great opportunity to get a sweep. But you do need to go play ball. But I think this is a great way for LSU's pitchers to start conference play. You're not going straight into week 1. The nerves are on a different level, and you're facing, Tennessee's lineup or Texas's lineup. So I think this will be, I hate to say tune up because it's not. It's conference play, but I think you get what I mean. But Cade Anderson, very good in game 1. The only other pitcher that came in was Maverick Rizzi. Maverick Rizzi threw 1 inning. He faced 5 batters, gave up 1 run, gave up a hit, didn't strike anybody out. But what stood out to me once again, and I talked a little bit about this, he did have a walk. What was just the strike rate? And that's the thing. These guys that are coming in the game, I mean, he's coming in to close the game out for an inning. And Maverick Rizzi is at 53% of his pitches were strikes. So just that's his 3rd outing where he didn't look really crisp. Do I still have confidence in him? Yeah, sure I do. He has good stuff, but we definitely need to see him throwing more strikes when he comes in the game, and I think he will. Game 2. So you dominate game 1. Game 2, the story of game 2 was just like the week before with Anthony Ianson. Anthony Ianson has a career high 15 strikeouts. LSU strikes out 20 in the game. The game was a lot closer. That was really the most competitive game. LSU wins the game 6-2. But I loved the way that Anthony Ianson rebounded in this game. And if you just take a look at the way the game started, Anthony Ianson strikes out the first batter of the game. Then he allows a walk. Then it's RBI double, RBI single. And then from there, so it's 2-0. They've got a 2-0 lead. He then retires 20 of the next 21 batters he faced. So following that second, so he gets the first strikeout, first batter he faces, strikeout, next 3 batters reach. So they got 2 runs. From there, I mean, 20 out of 21 batters, he retires. There was a span in the 5th, 6th, 7th inning where he faced the minimum. I mean, he is a true baller when it comes to a guy facing adversity and being able to bounce back. Lots of guys, whether it's the Nebraska game where he gives up 5 in the first couple innings, or, first inning, it's like, here we go again. I'm giving up hits. I'm giving up runs. And we've seen these guys at LSU. They just don't rebound. If it's not clean, they kind of fall off the rails. And that's just not the way that this guy is built, at least so far. And he's going to face adversity in SEC play. But my level of confidence for Anthony Ianson right now is through the roof. I thought his stuff was really good. That was the most like 94s and 95s that we've seen from Ianson. And I thought he did a really good job with the fastball location. He believed in his fastball more. He threw the slider a lot more this week. So he's got that really good get me over slow curveball, but he incorporated the slider in a lot more this week, and I like that. And the other thing is that if you remember the last time he started, and he threw a bunch, I think 3 wild pitches. I mean, it was bad. A lot of balls were bouncing in the dirt. That was that split finger, I believe. And he seemed to land that better this time around. So all of his pitches were on display, very similar to Cade Anderson. And it was just good. It was a lot of strikes. I mean, a lot of strikes. So I was very encouraged by Ianson. I think he's going into the Missouri series just really in a good place. I feel really good about him. And you know what? You could say, well, he doesn't start fast, and that's a couple of weeks in a row. And And that's okay. That first inning a lot of times is the hardest inning to get out there. Not everything from the bullpen transitions over perfectly, and you just kind of got to find your stuff a little bit that first inning. But Ianson was relieved by Zach Cowan. This is one of the better performances of the weekend. He faced 7 batters and he struck out 5 of them. 0 walks. Did he? Oh no, 1 walk and 0 hits. So, and Zach Cowan again, it's so interesting because if you watch him pitch, he doesn't look like these star relievers on some of these other SEC teams, like Tanner Franklin or any of the guys that you see coming out of some of these top programs around the country that are throwing 98 with nasty stuff. Zach Cowan is throwing, 91, 90. But the way he can throw like a right on right changeup, the way that when you start looking for the changeup, he can get that elevated fastball in on you. This guy's very good. I'm very interested to see how that translates against some of these aggressive SEC offenses that we face. I happen to think that he's going to do very well, but I am interested because these SEC offenses, they're used to seeing, and most of the guys that are effective against these good offenses, they're able to throw that good fastball and throw multiple pitches. Well, Zach Collins coming with a whole different vibe where he's going to keep the ball down with his off speed. He's going to elevate the fastball at times, but I'm really excited to see. I think he's going to play perfectly off of some of these hard throws for LSU. It's funny because I feel like Ianson and Cowan are kind of similar the way that they pitch. It's not like the hard stuff, and they're both righties. They're not similar pitchers. It's just that, Zach Cowan you would think would be more suited to come after, maybe like a Cade Anderson or even like a hard throwing righty. But for whatever reason, that was a great combination. So Cowan was great. Game 2, he was both of the pitchers were standouts in that game. LSU got the win. Game 3. So this was the Sunday game, and LSU pulled away, got like an 11-5 win. But if I'm being honest, there's one pitcher that I would give I thought had a good outing, and that would be Jaden Newt. And Jaden Newt was one of these guys that I talked about the circle of trust, and he just wasn't throwing enough strikes to be counted on. That version of Jaden Newt that we just saw game 3 can pitch against Arkansas, can pitch against Oklahoma, Auburn, Alabama, anybody. 9 out of his 12 pitches were strikes. He faced 3 batters. He struck 2 of them out. And it was just the ease of just that 95-mile-an-hour fastball on the outside corner. Then that running into a righty sinking, two-seamer. And then the off-speed, the slider. Just he looked very good, very impressive. I was very glad to see Jaden Newt bounce back because, as we talked about, LSU's still hoping to get a couple of guys step up in out of that kind of that tier where they're not quite thrown enough strikes yet. They're not in that group of like Kason Evans, William Schmidt, Zach Cowan. We're needing a couple more guys to step up. But, as I mentioned, Cade Anderson, Anthony Ianson, Zach Cowan, Jaden Newt, those were the performances on the pitching end that were impressive. I mentioned Maverick Rizzi just wasn't throwing enough strikes. And then the majority of guys that threw were really game 3, and it starts with Chase Shores. So let's talk about Shores. Chase Shores threw 5 innings, gave up 9 hits. All right, only 2 runs, only 4 Ks. And if you look at Chase Shores so far, the numbers look good. He's got like a 3 ERA on the year. But if you compare him to the other starters, I mean, the strikeouts there's a wide gap in the number of strikeouts. He's barely, if he's even with the number of innings he's pitched. And I think what's positive about Shores is that he is throwing strikes. The knock in the past was like, hey, does he throw strikes? Is he wild? He's throwing strikes. I think and look, he's only given up 2 extra base hits. I want to say, I looked it up earlier. He has faced 85 batters. He's given up 2 doubles. That's it. 2 doubles out of 85 batters. That's good. I mean, that's really good. And that'll play. So, you keep the ball in the yard, you limit the extra base hits, that's going to work out. Now, what concerns me about Chase Shores, and I don't know if I'm saying concerned, but I just, there's very little swing and miss, especially on that fastball. That fastball is 95 to 98 miles an hour, and you don't see a lot of whiffs. You don't see a lot of guys swing and miss on his fastball. And if you look at the 5 innings, he gave up 9 hits. This follows a start where he threw 5 innings and gave up 7 hits against Sam Houston. And so it's just puzzling. A guy that throws 98 miles an hour, he's given up a lot of hits, and he's not really getting a lot of whiffs. Not a lot of strikeouts, but not even a lot of swing and misses. His last 2 starts, 10 innings, 16 hits, 6 runs. I did some calculations here, some math. And Shores, in this outing he just had, in 25 batters faced, he had 11 swing and misses, okay? 11. And 25 batters over 5 innings. Anthony Ianson, he had 11 swing and misses in 2 innings. So after 2 innings, after 9 batters, he had just as many swing and misses as Chase Shores had. And so that's a little puzzling to me because, again, as the offenses get better, you got to get some of these fastballs by these guys. I mean, these guys are strong. They hit the ball hard, and at some point, the ball's going to leave the yard. It's going to be banging off the wall. And so that's something that I don't know if that's just kind of the pitcher he is. I don't think it is. I think he's got a little bit more deception in him. But either way, as long as he does the whole bend but not break, like Jay Johnson mentioned, I feel good. And I do think, just like Gage Jump last year, Chase Shores is going to get better. Remember, Gage Jump's first 5 conference starts were not great. He had a couple of them mixed in there that were good. It was the second 5 starts and beyond into SEC tournament and regional that were exceptional. And it might be one of those types of deals with Chase Shores. So Jaden Newt was the standout for me game 3. We talked about Chase Shores. Connor Binge, again, I didn't think it was a great outing. He comes in and he walks the first batter he faces on a 3-1 count, but he did retire the next 2 by strikeout, and then he gets a fly out. And you may say, well, that's pretty good. He comes in, the first guy he walks, and then he gets strikeout, fly, and he gets out the inning. But he threw 47% strikes. That's less than half of his pitches were strikes. And listen to the counts he was in. First batter, he's in a 3-1 count. Then he gets into a 1-2 count and gets the strikeout. Next batter he faces 3-2 count. Next batter 2-0 count, and he gets a fly out. So they kind of helped him out. So he's not really pounding the zone. Now his stuff is good. He is getting swing and miss, and it's not like they're generating a lot of offense on him. But I would like to see him, because he's going to be counted on. He's one of Jay's top guys to come in there and throw more strike. Cooper Williams gets in the game once again, under 50% strikes. He walked 2 batters. That's this 3rd straight outing where he's just really having a hard time finding the strike zone. Oddly enough, I think Cooper Williams got like a 0 ERA. He hasn't given up a run this year. Got a couple strikeouts, but he's walking guys. And then Chandler Dorsey wasn't helped by, the error by Michael Braswell, but he threw an inning, gives up 2, walks 2 guys, walks a guy, gives up 2 hits, wild pitch. Wasn't a great outing for him. So, overall, there were 5 relievers that LSU brought into the game for 1 inning. So you're talking like brought into the game for a short stint for 1 inning. And Cowan was the only long reliever. So 5 LSU bullpen arms are brought in for an inning. And of the 5, Jaden Newt was the only one to not walk a batter. So think about this. Every guy in short relief that you ran out there, other than one, that's 5 of them, walked a batter. That's not really what you want. When you go to guy, it might have been 4 of them, 4 out of the 5. When you bring a guy in from the bullpen and you say, "Hey, I need 3 outs from you," you're hoping you're not giving free passes, and that's something that's got to improve. Now, the good news, we still haven't seen Gavin Guidry. We didn't see Kason Evans. We didn't see William Schmidt. We didn't see Connor Ware. I mean, some of your top relievers you didn't see this weekend at all. So a lot of this is still learning about, hey, who can we go to? And I love that Jay did that. I love that Jay goes straight back to guys like Cooper Williams, Maverick Rizzi. These guys didn't have great outings last time out. So I love that Jay's going back to them. So overall, I think your starting rotation is really gearing up. They're doing a lot of things good. And even if I'm nitpicking on Shores, he only gave up 2 runs and he's still working back from injury and he's throwing strikes. And look, 95 to 98 is going to play. So whether he's getting a lot of swing and miss, I mean, he's got that good run. Guys aren't getting a lot of, squaring up a whole lot against him. So I like where the rotation's at, and we still need some of these bullpen arms to throw more strikes. But look, the rubber's going to meet the road this coming week. So I'm very interested actually to see what we do with Connor Ware going forward. If he's been the midweek starter, I can't imagine that you're going to want to start him because I feel like he's a key arm for you, both him and William Schmidt. And I think you're going to do a lot of the, maybe you go 2 innings and this guy throws 2 innings in the midweek so that everybody's available for the weekend. Because really, if you pitch 2 innings on Tuesday, that's kind of like a bullpen. You'll be ready to pitch Friday, Saturday, whatever it is. But I'm interested to see. I don't know that these guys like Connor Ware, William Schmidt are going to have 4-inning outings anymore with conference play coming up. But, we'll see. Outside of the pitching, there were 2 things that stood out to me that kind of bummed me out. And it's more of a player thing. Number one, Ashton Larson. Ashton Larson has found himself in a tough spot. He's kind of been relegated to late game pinch hits. And, when he's in there, I just feel terrible for him. He's a guy that was such a big piece last year. He had a great summer, started out in the starting lineup, and there's just so much talent competition that when he's in there, I think he's trying to do too much. I mean, he's got 22 at-bats and 9 of them are strikeouts. And he's very uncharacteristic in that he's chasing pitches, just doesn't look real comfortable. It looks like he's trying to do too much. I just hate that for him. I hate to see these guys that just fighting it. He's such a good player, and we're going to need him. And that's the thing is I just feel like when I'm watching him, I see a guy pressing. I hope I'm wrong. The other one is Michael Braswell. Michael Braswell came back to LSU this year, figuring to be a major piece of the infield. He's one of the best hitters in conference play last year, might have led the team. And again, just very uncharacteristic ABs. He's hitting 1-something on the year, but he's chasing balls in the dirt and taking huge hacks and just, gets in the game at shortstop and the ball rolls up his arm, makes an error. And you could just see the look on his face. I just hate that for him. I mean, Brazzy's got 33 at-bats, 8 strikeouts. And I just hate that because I do think, he has value. I think he's a great third baseman. I actually think he's your best option at third base. And maybe you don't need his bat quite as much. I mean, you're going to face some elite left-handed pitchers in the SEC, and maybe you feel better putting Braswell in there rather than Tanner Reeves hitting from the left side. I like his defense at third base. But right now, I think both of those guys are just getting in late in games and just really trying to do too much. And I hate to see that because I think they're great kids and good players. So, overall, though, we talked about the pitching. On a more positive note, the starting defense didn't commit an error this weekend. Not one. The only errors were at the end of the game. Mikey Ryan, the base runner, ran in front of him, and it was an error. And then Michael Braswell. But the starting defense, and it helps when you're striking out 20 guys in one game. But the defense was good. So, that leads us to the offense, because the offense is really the strength of the team. If I'm assessing this team compared to last year right now, I actually think the offense is a better offense. Now, at the end of last year, when you've got those guys like Braswell hitting 300 and Milam doing what he was doing and having Tommy White, that is a different level, because I don't care who the other team's pitching. You've got confidence in Tommy White and Jared Jones. So we'll see if that guy emerges that's no matter who the guy is that you're facing is always going to be a game. I think you've got those guys, but the offense has been great. I don't think the pitching, the top line pitching, we'll see. But having Gage Jump and Luke Holman and Nate Ackenhausen after what he did in 2023, he was just so reliable. I mean, he had great games at times in relief. And Griffin Herring, we'll see if you've got those type of guys. I mean, I think Cade Anderson is a very capable starter, just like Gage Jump. From there, do you have that second starter that can match somebody like Luke Holman? I don't know. Do you have a Griffin Herring shutdown guy? I mean, Kason Evans does give you a closer, which I don't think you had last year, but I don't know. So we'll see. But if you're asking me to assess right now, I think the offense, maybe not the star power without Tommy White, and the home run power by Hayden Travinski, having like 320 home run guys. But I think the offense is better. I think it's deeper. I think the defense is better than last year. And I think the offense is better this year. So maybe not the pitching, but the other aspects I like a lot better. So offensively, I mean, this team is just really something. I mean, every week it's like Jerry Jones is, batted .474 last week, 9 for 19. I mean, he hit 4 homers, 9 RBIs. I mean, Stephen Milam's still doing his thing. I think Stephen Milam, it's time to put him in the category of one of the best shortstop in the country. He's phenomenal. I mean, now he's hitting for power. Every ball they hit to him is an automatic out. I mean, those two guys right there are incredible. The freshman, Derek Curiel. I'm going to say it right at some point. I think I'm still butchering it, but he kind of cooled down this weekend, but still had a good week overall. And I want to say he's still hitting over 400 for the year. I mean, if we're looking at just the stat leaders as of right now for the year, which, look, I mean, this is pretty impressive. I mean, to have this many guys hitting this way, Jared Jones leading the team 429, Curiel 421, Milam 397, Dickinson 368, Jake Brown 349, Stanfield 320, Josh Pearson, 314. I'm so happy for him. I really had so much faith in him this year, and he looks like this is really going to be his year where he's going to be hitting 300 with double-digit home runs. He's gotten very close a couple years now. But it's just a very deep lineup. And so this offense is going to score runs. They're going to play good defense. That group of pitchers, that small group of them is going to be as good as anybody. The key is going to be, like I mentioned, when you start getting into SEC play, those guys, like once you use those first bunch of bullets, do you have the depth to compete with some of these other teams? So this week, you've got a midweek game against Xavier. Xavier's a good team. The record's not great. They're below 500, but they've played Stanford. So they got 2 losses against Stanford. I think they lost all 3 to Vanderbilt, and they lost a game to Tennessee. And they've played everybody really tight in their losses up until late in the game. They're not scoring a bunch of runs, but they can pitch it pretty decently. And then you're seeing these SEC teams just kind of like run away late in games. But this is going to be a good test, and I'm very interested to see, who gets some work tomorrow night, because we didn't see a lot of guys this weekend. And so a lot of guys are going to need work. So it might be a good thing to have some of your best arms out there to try to get a win going into conference weekend. So that is going to do it. We're at the 30-minute mark, and I like to try to keep these at 30 minutes. I will be back before the Missouri series this weekend. If you follow me and listen to this podcast, if there's one thing you're going to want to listen to, it's going to be the getting ready for the SEC series every weekend, because I am going to go really in depth. And you might look at Missouri and say, well, that's not that much fun. There's not a lot of guys. But still, when you're watching this series, I'm going to make sure you know, hey, who are the top high school prospects, transfer portal guys, who are the arms that you're going to see that you need to know about. So when you're watching the series, you feel like you know a little bit about this team. And so we will be back with a breakdown before the weekend series. And as always, appreciate you guys tuning in for another episode of Inside LSU Baseball. We will talk to you soon.